Last week I posted this video of Jimmy and I getting very muddy on our first proper gravel ride together on the old 90s mountain bike I converted into a gravel bike for him. In that video I mentioned that clipping in with extremely muddy shoes wasn't really an issue for SPD cleats and that you'd never be able to do it with SPD-SL cleats. And I got a number of messages asking me what on earth I was talking about. So I thought it would be useful to do a video on the different types of pedal available and why you might use them. So generally speaking, there are three types of pedals: flat, mountain bike and road bike. Now within those categories there are also a number of different varieties, which just adds to the confusion, unfortunately. In this video though, I'm hoping to demystify most of this so you can make a better choice about which one is best for you for the type of riding you do. So let's start with the humble flat pedal. It's the one we're probably almost used to seeing, and if you had a bike like mine as a kid, you almost certainly had these on them. Although back in the 70s and 80s, these were more likely to be made of metal, like this one, but with serrated edges. Cue sudden flashbacks to metal spiked shin killers. On a modern adult bike though, your standard commuter flat pedal will generally be made of hardened plastic like this one, and may feature metal pins or grip strips to add a little more friction to the pedal to keep your foot in place. You don't need to wear any type of specialist shoe with these, and don't need to worry about falling over when stopping at traffic lights simply because you can't get your foot off of them in time. More on that later. Now these pedals are perfect for city riding on largely smooth roads or cycle paths, and for that reason they're most often found on hybrid commuter bikes. However, if you're riding dirt or gravel trails, you might want to consider a metal flat pedal. The metal variety is much more hardy than its plastic sibling, which is useful due to the higher likelihood of knocking them against tree roots or rocks, which could cause damage to a plastic pedal. Now these metal mountain bike pedals also tend to have a larger base and bigger pins for extra stability on the rough stuff, as your feet are likely to be bouncing around a lot more on the uneven ground. Again, no specialist shoe is required for those, but a softer soled trainer might be a better choice to avoid damaging a harder soled shoe with the larger spikes. These are most commonly found on BMX style bikes, mountain bikes or gravel bikes. Finally, bridging the gap between flat and proper mountain bike pedals is the flip-flop pedal. Now these have a large platform surface similar to the standard metal or hardened plastic pedals, but also accept a mountain bike cleat fixing. This makes them really versatile and means you can ride in both standard footwear if you're heading out for a simple ride with the family for instance, or a specialist mountain bike shoe for when you're taking on the trails. Now these are the pedals I put on Jimmy's new gravel bike, mainly because he doesn't yet have any gravel bike shoes, but also because he really likes the ability to just jump on the bike in whatever trainers he's wearing and head off. And this leads us nicely onto mountain bike and road bike pedals, which are collectively known as clipless. Now that might seem very confusing because why is a pedal you clip into called clipless? Well, for the answer to that we have to go way back in history to the early days of cycling, when riders would have a cage style contraption to hold their foot securely on the pedal. Now these cages were called toe clips. So when the more recent pedal technology was invented and the toe clip became obsolete, the new system became known as clipless. For mountain bike shoes, the most common type is the Shimano SPD pedal, the SPD standing for Shimano Pedal Dynamics. Now these pedals feature a metal clasp that accepts a cleat that screws into the sole of a specialist mountain bike or gravel shoe. Now there are a few benefits of being physically attached to the pedal, but the main one is the extra power you're able to exert on the bike, as you're suddenly able to push down with one foot at the same time as pulling up with the other. Now this makes for a much more efficient pedal stroke and can make cycling up inclines, for instance, much easier. Aside from that though, it also stops your feet slipping off the pedals during hard efforts, which can result in nasty injuries. Trust me, I've seen some. To clip onto these pedals, you simply place the cleat over the top of the pedal mechanism and push straight down. To release your foot from the pedal, you twist your ankle outwards away from the bike, which pushes back the spring-loaded clip, releasing the cleat. As you can see, cleats for mountain bike shoes are much smaller compared to their road bike cousins, and they're made of metal. They're attached to the shoe using 2 bolts, and dependent on the shoe themselves, you'll often find that they're recessed into the sole. This makes them much easier to walk in than road bike cleats, and their smaller surface area makes it much harder for mud and dirt to get caught up in them, which would otherwise stop you being able to clip into the pedal as easily. This is why I had no problem clipping into these SPD pedals last week, despite the huge amount of peanut butter mud I had on them. And now finally, we head to our final category, road bike pedals. Again, There are many varieties of these, with a few companies having their own proprietary clipping in systems, but once again the most common type are the Shimano SPD-SL type, with the added SL suffix standing for super light. The reason for this is that road bikers are generally much more concerned about the weight of their bikes and accessories, as the main purpose of a road bike is going fast, usually with a lot of climbing involved, and any added weight just results in a slower overall speed. As you can see though, these have a much larger cleat than the mountain bike ones, and this is to enable you to push a lot more power through the pedal with each stroke. More power equals more speed. Now these cleats are fixed to a specific road bike shoe, which generally have stiffer soles, again to help put down as much power as possible without wasting any energy with the shoe twisting. Now as you can see, these cleats protrude quite a bit from the bottom of the shoe, which makes them quite difficult to walk in, and actually these cleats really don't like to be walked on anyway. Now you can buy cleat covers to make them last a little longer, but thankfully these cleats are only quite cheap anyway, so even if you do destroy them, buying a new set won't break the bank. To clip into these pedals, you tip your foot forward and slide the front part of the cleat into the pedal, then push your heel down to clip the back of the cleat into position. Exactly the same as mountain bike pedals though. To release your foot, you twist your ankle to the side and out away from the bike. You'll also find that Shimano's SPD-SL cleats come in 3 different colours: blue, yellow and red. Each of these colours allows a different amount of lateral movement, or float as it's called, when the cleat is clipped in. The reason for this is that when you're installing cleats onto your shoes, you'll notice that it can be fixed in a number of different positions on a sliding mechanism. If you get the position of the cleat wrong, which strangely is remarkably easy to do, then given how long you could be in the saddle for and the potential for pushing your joints in an awkward manner because of an incorrect cleat position, you could end up with quite a serious ankle or knee injury. Now Shimano's blue and yellow cleats are designed to let your ankle turn to a greater or lesser degree before it unclips from the pedal to reduce the chance of these injuries. Red cleats, on the other hand, allow for no float whatsoever, and so your foot is fixed in a very rigid position on the pedal. For that reason, I wouldn't recommend the red pedals for anyone who hasn't had a full professional bike fit to determine the optimal cleat position for them personally, and even then, once your latest pair of cleats wear out and you have to change them, you're opening up the possibility for getting them slightly out of place again, and again, potentially causing injuries. Basically what I'm saying is that red cleats are the devil incarnate and you should avoid them like the plague. Generally speaking though, you won't go far wrong with the yellow cleats, and that's exactly what I use. Now, going back to the issue of being able to unclip in time when you stop though, this all comes down to practice, but you can largely rest assured that you will fall over at least once. Anyone who tells you they've never fallen over clipped in is lying. So before heading out on the road or on the trails for the first time with clipless pedals, it's always best to practice clipping in and out while sat on the bike, propped up against a wall for instance. If you continue to use clipless pedals though, clipping in and out will quickly become second nature, and you'll hopefully have very few embarrassing incidents at the traffic lights. So just before I finish up, if you found this video interesting or useful, then I'd love it if you could hit the like button and consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. All of my content is cycling related, so if you're watching this, there's every chance you'll like a few of my other videos. So yeah, hit that subscribe button, click the bell notification, and then you'll be notified of any new videos that I release. And why not leave a comment below about the pedals you use, or the most embarrassing fall that you had when you first started clipping in. So there you go, that is pedals, and I started off this video by saying there are generally 3 main types, and then I showed you 6 different pedals, so you can see where the confusion comes from. But hopefully this video has just given you a little bit of an insight into the different technologies and the reasons that you might use one over the other, and how they can benefit you for your particular style of cycling. So with that said, that's about everything you need to know about pedals. Personally, having used clipless pedals for so long now, I don't think I could go back to using flats. But let me know below whether you are a die-hard clipless addict, or if you much prefer the freedom of flat pedals. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care, guys.